In this video, I'll be reviewing these compatible attachments for the KitchenAid stand mixer sent to me by Favorkit. So let's get started. In exchange for a review, Favorkit have sent me a compatible slicer shredder attachment and a pasta maker attachment for the KitchenAid stand mixer. Once I washed everything out and let it all completely dry, I'm going to attach the housing unit to the KitchenAid stand mixer, making sure that it's nice and tight. And then I'm going to insert the shredding blade into the housing unit, making sure to align it all towards the back here into these clips, and then turning it clockwise to lock it in. I'm going to start with some mozzarella cheese first, and I like to use a Ziploc bag to catch the cheese when I'm shredding it, and then use the steel plunger to push the cheese down. And I'm using speed 4 because I find I get a really good consistency of shredding on this speed. Either 4 or 5 is a good speed to do it on. I did exactly the same with some cheddar cheese, which I took straight out from the fridge. I didn't freeze it, even though the instructions say it's best to freeze it for at least 10 minutes, but I didn't have the time to do that. And it did a really good job shredding the cheddar cheese. Again, I was using the coarse shredding blade, and just look at how well it shredded both the mozzarella cheese and the cheddar cheese. I was very impressed, and nothing got stuck in there, and it all came out. Nice, beautiful and consistent shredding of the cheese. And you can see that the mouth of the housing unit is quite wide, so all the cheese does come out, nothing gets stuck in there. To remove the blade, you need to turn it counterclockwise until it unlatches in the center here. And then I inserted the slicing blade, and I started with some cucumbers, you can see here. Then I sliced up some carrot. I held on to the carrot for a little while before it went into the feed tube so that it could retain its shape. And that gave me more consistent slicing. And then finally I used the fine shredding blade, and the instructions say I can do nuts, so I'm definitely going to try this. And I'm just going to try it out with a handful of mixed nuts here. I'm going to pop them into the feed tube, and just using it on speed 4 again. Look at how well it crushed them, and so quick. And look at how well it finely grated these nuts. A little bit messy though, but it did do a really good job. Moving on to the pasta maker, you can't wash this by immersing it in water, so I'm just going to give it a good wipe first with a damp paper towel. And they also sent me this flat beater, which I will use a little later. So before I can use the attachment, I need to make some dough. I'm going to start with half a cup of all-purpose flour mixed with half a cup of chapati flour, and I'm going to add 1 egg to this, and then I'm going to use my dough hook to mix this all together and add some water very gradually to prevent it from getting sticky. So the reason I use a little bit of chapati flour mixed in with the all-purpose is because it's very hard for me to work with just all-purpose flour. It's too rubbery. It has a very rubbery texture to it from all the gluten. So I always like to mix a little bit of chapati flour into it. I'm also going to make dough with 1 cup of semolina flour and add 1 egg to this. And I started mixing this with my dough hook, but it wasn't doing a very good job, so then I used the flat beater that Favorkit sent to me, and it did a much better job mixing the dough with that, like you can see here. And again, you're just going to add a little bit of water, making sure that it's not too sticky. If it does get too sticky, just add a little bit more flour to it. And then when I was ready to make the pasta, attach the pasta maker to the stand mixer, making sure that it's nice and tight. And then starting with the all-purpose dough, I split it into half and made a round disc before inserting it into the rollers on setting number 8, which is the widest setting. But you can see that it was sticking onto the rollers and going into the cutting side, and then I realized that the dough was still a little bit too sticky, and so I dusted it with some more flour just to make it a bit more dry. And you're just going to fold it each time you put it through the rollers to flatten it out, and you're going to keep folding it until you get to setting number 5. And after that you don't need to fold it, but just keep putting it through the rollers at least 3 times until you get a nice flat shape. I did the exact same with the semolina flour. The semolina flour, I took it all the way down to setting number 3. And then I selected the 2mm cutter to make spaghetti out of the semolina flour. And I selected the 6mm cutter to make fettuccine from the all-purpose flour. And once it does come through, you need to separate the strands straight away before they start sticking. So add some flour onto your plate, onto your board, and on your hands, and just start separating them before they get too sticky and hard to separate. The spaghetti did take a lot longer to separate because they were so thin and delicate. You want to make sure not to break them as you're doing it. Once it was done, just take a look at how beautiful they came out. Homemade spaghetti, very much like noodles, but they came out so good. And here is the fettuccine. And then when you're ready to cook it, just add your favorite sauce to it. And then, like I mentioned earlier, you can't immerse the pasta maker into water to wash it, so this is why they sent the cleaning brush with it. And once the pasta is nice and dried up in there, you can just open the lid and try to tap out all of this pasta and use the brush to clean away all of these big pieces. Turn the settings onto the highest number, the widest setting, so that you can get your brush and your cleaning cloth in there, and just wipe everything all away, twisting the rollers as you can. So overall, the Favorkit compatible KitchenAid stand mixer attachments did a good job, especially shredding. I loved how it shredded the cheeses. Because of its wide mouth and the wide design, I was able to shred more than what I normally do with my current shredder, and none of the cheese got stuck in the housing unit. Both the slicing and the fine shredding discs impressed me. The only thing I would say is that the housing unit is quite wide towards the back, so I found it a little hard trying to attach it to the KitchenAid stand mixer into the housing unit. Other than that, I loved how it processed the food. I didn't have any issues with that. I think the design could just have a little bit more attention to it. The pasta maker is quite time consuming to use. Once you do get the hang of it, it does get pretty easy, but it's the cleaning and also the making the dough which can be a little bit time consuming. And also obviously the separating of the strands took a little bit of time. But like I say, if you do plan to use the pasta maker, you will need to invest quite a bit of time for that. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Please don't forget to give this video a like. If you are new to my channel, do consider subscribing, and I hope to catch you in my next video.